When you're trying to heal from the devastation of infidelity, you really can't do it alone. I will tell you, whether it's being an unfaithful spouse or being a betrayed, when you are trying to pursue recovery on your own, it makes it that much harder to process through the pain, the hurt, finding appropriate perspective. It just, all in all, is so much harder than it needs to be when it's already hard in the first place. The two most loneliest times in my life are, one, when my dad died at a very early age. I was in my early 20s, and I sat by his bed while he passed away. And for many months, I felt incredibly alone. And that was very difficult. The second most loneliest time I've ever walked through was about 48 hours after disclosure happened. And one by one, our friends, our close friends, people that had been in our lives for 10, 15, 20 years, disappeared almost instantaneously. It was incredibly lonely. And I know for you, if you're going through this as well, you're probably very alone. The good news is you don't have to be as alone as so many were decades ago, because there's so many more tools, there's so many more resources for you. There's just some things that you have to process in community if you're going to be able to move forward in healing for yourself, but also for your marriage. To try and do it alone makes it that much harder, and I'm going to tell you a few reasons why it's so hard when you're trying to heal alone. Before I give you some things to ponder, I just want to tell you, you don't have to suffer in silence alone. There's so many resources just on our website, affairrecovery.com. There's Harboring Hope, which is for betrayed spouses. There's Hope for Healing for unfaithful spouses. There's the EMS Online for couples. There's the EMS Weekend, where you actually get to be in person with other couples who are trying to heal. There are lots of other different websites out there. There's forums that are out there as well, because if you try and do this on your own, it's so much more painful than it already is. And you just don't have to. There are some wonderful and safe places to be able to process through the pain and hurt and grief that you both are experiencing because of infidelity. When you're trying to go through this alone, I'll just tell you, your mind can wreck you. I mean, when you are alone trying to process through the pain, the uncertainty, the reminders, the triggers, the self-hatred, the self-rejection, the confusion, just the enormity of all the things that you're facing on both sides of betrayal, your mind can absolutely just get warped. I mean, you can feel so hopeless, so overwhelmed. So when you can get into community, you can find safety. You can find other people to process your pain with. You can be able to process what you're thinking and have people who are gracious and kind, who are for you and for your recovery, say, no, 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 that's not true. That's not right. That's not the truth of it. That may be what your mind or your anger, for example, is telling you, but that's not the truth. When you get into community, you don't have to be a prisoner to the mental carnage and wreckage that surrounds you, what feels like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Community, the right community, not just community, but the right support, the right community is going to help you break free of the mental exhaustion and overwhelmment that you feel on a daily basis. It also is helpful when you're in the right, safe community to receive encouragement. I mean, it feels so good to have someone say, you're not a train wreck. You may never even see their face. It may just be in communication over the phone or through the website or all the different mediums that we provide. But to hear somebody say, look, you are not a whack job. What you're feeling, what you're experiencing is absolutely normal. It hurts like hell. I feel it too. I've seen that too. I'm going through that too. And you can encourage one another and say, look, you're going to get through it. I don't know about your marriage, but you are going to get through it. And here's why. And being able to process your pain with other people is absolutely life-changing. I tell this story all the time, but I'm still friends with a guy that I went to an EMS weekend with 13 years ago. We talk all the time. We talk when we're going through some tough times in his job or his career and all the things that I do. I mean, we still talk, we still communicate, we still have a close relationship because when we look into each other's eyes, there's a different sense of support and camaraderie. There's a band of brothers there, but in a whole new way. Another thing you'll find in community, and again, I want to stress the right community, not just any community. But for example, at our EMS weekend, or maybe Hope for Healing, just to throw out a couple things, there's something about finding perspective where you realize you're really not the worst. But sitting in your living room or sitting in your car, stuck in traffic, thinking about all the things that have gone on and all the pain that you're processing, you feel like you're the absolute worst. But when you get into the right community of support, you realize you're not the best, but you're not the worst. You're typically kind of in the middle. And there's some nuances to your situation that may be worse than somebody else's, but there's some nuances to theirs that's probably worse than you. And when you can find support to be able to go, man, I thought I was the only one. Or you could also be in the right community and say, wow, I see it so differently now. I see things radically different because of the way he or she explained them or said them. And you can find a sense of hope when you are processing through your pain and you're not alone and you're not trying to figure it out on your own. And you're not just looking at your situation thinking, this is the worst it ever gets. And you hear somebody else and you say, whoa, okay, hold on. That's pretty challenging. Maybe I'm not the worst situation to ever walk the earth in terms of infidelity. You see, when you're in that kind of support system, it's free of judgment. Because so many people say, well, I don't want to go to the weekend because I feel like, we're a mess, or we're dealing with this, or, we're not that big of a mess, but we still have some critical issues that we're working through. Right. It's not like you're coming to a weekend intensive that's about financial planning and you're the only one dealing with infidelity. I tell couples all the time, everybody's a mess. Everybody has critical issues they're facing. Everybody is trying to walk down this road together. So why are you so worried about image management when everybody that comes or everybody that attends the class is all going through infidelity and we're in this together? You see, when we try and walk alone, and believe me, I understand willing it, I understand white-knuckling it, I understand that, man, if it's going to be, it's up to me. I get all that, but I just want to tell you, infidelity squashes that. You just are not going to be able to will it so into recovery and relapse prevention and break free of your affair partner in your own power and your own strength. I'm sorry the data crushes you. The information over the last 40 years absolutely annihilates that you're going to be the one that actually raises the bar that says, well, I can do it myself. You don't have to. You just don't. There's too much support available for you to be able to have community, and let me stress, same-sex community. If you're a man working through this, you need other men to rally around you and encourage you and support you and give you perspective. If you're a woman, you need women that will stand with you and support you and give you perspective and insight and just maybe even hold your hand as you're grieving. But when you're alone, it's tough. It's isolating. One of the terms we use is isolating grief. That's what infidelity does. It isolates you and provides you with just this whole heap of grief, and trying to navigate through it by yourself is tough. Finally, you have to find the right community to be vulnerable in. I've talked to so many people, including some of my own experiences, where I was vulnerable in a place that I shouldn't have been, and it came back to bite me, and it came back to make things even harder. I was shamed, I was marginalized, I was labeled, all because I just didn't know that that place wasn't safe. And so I really want to encourage you, before you're vulnerable, before you share your story, before you're too revealing about what you're navigating through, make sure it's a safe place. Make sure it's an infidelity-specific place. There are so many opportunities on the website to find help. I hope you'll do that today.